Hi, TheSuffokRam here from Round Nerds. Welcome to my review of Doctor Who Series Trials Episode 9, Ascension of the Cybermen. There may be some minor spoilers ahead, and there's some spoilers obviously last week's episode, so if you don't have anything spoiled, turn off now. So Ascension of the Cybermen basically consists of two plot lines, both of which appear on the face of it to not be in any way interactive, and indeed no answers comes forth throughout the episode. No doubt they will at some point link together, because it seems strange to have two separate plot lines for no good reason, but I'm sure they will at some point. There's some definitely strangeness going on. So I'll call this a secondary plot line, but you know it starts off right at the start. So probably it's set at some point in the past. This guy finds his abandoned child. He takes it back to his wife. Call the police, no one can identify the parents, they decide to raise them as their own, all legal above board and so forth, and start to raise a child. So that's all one B plot, and it's set at some point in the past, looks sort of, I'd say sort of 1950s sort of time era it's looking like, or perhaps a bit earlier, perhaps a bit later, something like that. So it feels like a rural part of Ireland raising this kid. The main plot line, of course, is the Doctor gang. She's following the coordinates given to which she found in last week's episode, where they encountered Ashad, the evil Cyberman, who sort of like you can see the human part of him, and he seems to be more emotional than every Cyberman. He seems to have he seems to be more in contact with humanity. He's sort of perhaps he's the most horrific kind of Cyberman, because he knows he's Cyberman and he doesn't care. He still has some emotion about him, and he really doesn't give a care about it. So he carries on, basically, and that makes him actually more terrifying, because he's not worried. Everybody else is sort of terrified by the idea that they've been turned to Cybermen, but he isn't, and he's quite pleased about it, and seems to be sort of having a certain degree of control and leading them. So they go to the coordinates they find from last week's episode and encounter what they believe to be the last group of humans left alive in most of the galaxy. A small group of 7, and they decide to help them. So you've got these two plot lines going on. So the second plot line is we'll go plot line A, B. It's fairly straightforward, just sort of find this guy's life. That's no real indication what's going on. There are some what look like inconsistencies in it, which I thought seemed a bit bad with Paul White at the end, but they sort of make sense later on. And some weird stuff does happen to him. In plot A, however, I said this group here, they go initially to help defend them. As this happens the first few minutes. Doesn't go quite well. This was one of the weird things episode. The Cybermen send like this forward group of, this is spoiled for the first 5 minutes, so sorry, of these drones who are really good. They do far more damage than anything else we've seen them do recently. They are very effective. They can move. Not great CGI, but they do quite good. Yet the drones all get so far and they go, meh. Bored now, and off they fly, which feels a bit like, why did you stop? You're doing such a good job. Why did you leave? And the plot demanded that you leave. Yeah, they didn't get fought off, they didn't get defeated, they just flew away. And it's not even really, perhaps the guy was trying to gloat, I don't know, but there we go. So the group gets separated, Yaz and Gran get separated, Ryan and the Doctor sort of eventually get separated. Ryan gets separated because he's an idiot and doesn't seem to understand the concept of running. And they get separated off. They have to basically find their two ways, and what they're trying to do, trying to get to this one place where they can hopefully escape the Cybermen forever, a bit later on. So that's plot B. Plot B and A. So I'm not going to go much more on that because I don't want to spoil too much. It's overall, I did actually enjoy it. I'm being unfair. I actually did quite like the episode. I thought I was going to find it a little bit, I was a bit unsure because I'm not a great fan of Chibnall's work, but it's actually quite well this episode. Some of the strangeness does make sense later on. Some of the weird things that do happen, like that seems a bit of a strange plot contrivance to do that, but actually sort of makes sense later on as we get further into the episode, which sort of works. Yeah, it's actually a really good episode, and the ending part, I was both surprised and unsurprised. I sort of guessed quite early on what was going to happen, and some familiar faces do turn up, so I wasn't totally shocked by that, but there was some nice things there. It's nice to see going on, and yeah, overall, actually, yeah, I did enjoy this episode. So cast and crew, There's quite a few other characters in this one. I'm going to be absolutely honest, I don't remember half their names. True answer, so many of them, and then they're quite a few start off, quite a few get introduced quite early on, and they sort of try to build a bit of character up quite early on, and they drop like flies, if I'm honest. I said, Doctor in the game, they get split off. I mean, I'm basically going to talk about, actually, let me talk about the main people to talk about, Doctor's gang, and we'll talk about Ashad, because they're the most interesting characters in the whole Will series. So Doctor and Ryan get split off in one direction, with another survivor called Ethan. And Ryan just, he's so poorly written. He's just playing the idiot ball too often. He just makes some strange decisions, but then shows brains later on. It just seems weird. Yasmin and Graham do a better job. Get a bit irritating later on actually, but they do a better job as they are, and it works quite well with them. But I have to say, Ashad is probably steals the show in many ways as a character. This Simon, who I mentioned from the earlier part, he's, despite the fact that he is, a Cyberman, he still seems to have some degree of emotion to him, which makes him interesting. Indeed, works very well. But anger and hate, and the Doctor picks us up, and he's sort of like, yeah, that's right, yeah. He's just the right side of hamminess. The guy's clearly really enjoying playing that character, and it shows through. And it just works so well. The sort of it's not something we've seen. We have seen actually half converted Simon in the classic series, but here we are. This guy sort of half converted Simon, and it just works so well. It looks so good. So yeah, I enjoy him. I said the other characters, to be frank, none of them really jump out. And I'll be frank, I don't remember most of their names. I sort of was making notes, and I can't. I've got more lists in front of me. I still can't remember who's who, so we're going to leave it at that, I think. So on to production. So mostly pretty good effects. I said there's some cyber drones early on, and they look awful. Just the design. Them. Why did you pick that? Why that just looks silly. And the actual effects when they're composite into the scene looks really rough and really badly done. That sort of the motion isn't quite right. The way they move isn't quite right. It just doesn't look great, and I don't get it. I don't get why not. Okay, they're floating heads, floating Cybermen heads, and it looks ridiculous. I mean, sure, Simon can make something that look. They could have done something that looked drone like that was Cybermen. So they put floating heads. Why would the Cybermen make floating heads their drone? I mean, perhaps I suppose scare tactic maybe, but some don't really care about motion, so I don't know. Other than that, though, it's a pretty good episode. Fairly well directed. Directed by Jay Magnus Stone, who directed Praxis, Spy 4, and he's also directing the finale next week. Last say, we're by Chris Chibnall. And actually, a pretty decent episode for a Chibnall episode. I was quite impressed. I did really enjoy it, actually, so overall, bit done. I said most of the other effects were okay. Some flaky bits here, but those drones were pretty terrible. So yeah, overall, I actually really like this episode. I wasn't got one of my favourite, but it's definitely a more viable end part compared to the previous season. It felt a lot better worded and paced and written. And I'm looking forward to next week's, and the big reveal for next week, the big sort of cliffhanger for next week. Yeah, looking forward to that. I can't wait to find out what goes on there, and yeah, all exciting. So yeah, overall, I say good episode. So thank you very much for watching. I've been TheSuffokRam. I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, please consider subscribing to the channel. We do other things in here. We may do podcasts on here. Sometimes put some gameplay footage up once in a blue moon. But generally it's our podcast. We've got our next podcast next Saturday, the 29th at 9:30 on the channel, also on Twitch. We also do my reviews, so check those out for this and the previous season. So until then, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you on next week's episode for my final episode review. So until then, look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much for watching. I've been TheSuffokRam. We'll see you in the future.